Day 5 of the April 98 7-day retreat in Springwater. A few people mentioned to me how in the past, and that may be this morning, or years ago, one used to work hard at this being aware, being alert, mindful. And then suddenly it dawns that it is there on its own, without needing to be forced by me. Me, the meditator, me, the practicer, me, the doer. Me, this clump of ideas. And then, no matter what happens, it happens in awareness, which is our true state. Presence. The word is not important. Find the best suitable word for yourself. That's the least distracting or linking up with all kinds of thought associations. Sometimes we say just listening. The breathing, coughing, hum of a motor. Just being here. Not as a somebody. That's thought. Does that thought arise in awareness? The thought of being something interesting, important, or unimportant. There's a clinging to both identities, the positive and the negative. And does it begin to show itself in awareness? Witnessing the thinking, the identifying, this is me, and witnessing the gush of good or unpleasant energies arising with how I think about myself. Thinking I'm good is a good feeling. Thinking I'm bad, unpleasant feelings, guilt feelings, and the fan kicking in. How quietly, how simply can the listening be? Regardless whether these are the sounds of noise or silence, how quiet can the listening be? Quieter and quieter and quieter, meaning fewer and fewer resistances, comments, this incredibly strong urge to know what is going on, as the brain's function to know, meaning to represent in thinking, to terms what it is that is being experienced, to put it into words, to know it. This is where, from habit, we seem to live more comfortably in what we think is going on, in explanations. To witness that moving into explanations. And is it all right not to know? Meaning, to live for a moment without a word about it, without an explanation, this body is addicted to its explanations. This body-mind is one whole functioning, addicted to its explanations because they seem to provide safety, security of a sort. And the question is it all right for a moment not to know what I am about? And with this question, to become aware of the strength of this impulse, to know where I am, how I'm doing, and so forth. And it is an incredibly relieving realization that we don't have to know this moment of sitting quietly. What's going on is going on. And the brain may do its conditioned thing to name, wanting to associate, to notice it, and wonder whether it's necessary for this moment to be here. Not it shouldn't be here. It is here. A word coming up, an explanation, and wondering, what is this moment without knowing? And then quiet. We don't have to know what it is. Not knowing what anything is an opening to what is, prior to knowledge about it. Being before knowing. Whatever knowing goes on necessarily, functionally, or habitually, can it just simply be witnessed in awareness? To slightly change the topic, but not the awareness. That doesn't change. It's the only thing, in quotation marks, which is unchangeable. What changes is what appears in awareness. And it's always old and also new stuff. The less we know, the more new everything appears. Because if there's the thought, oh, I already know this, then the mind is with its memory and doesn't look. It can be so simple. It occurred to me the other day in washing a pot in which oatmeal had been cooked. Washed it, and somehow I knew it was clean and put it on the drain board. Then in picking it up later to put it away, there was oatmeal in it. So knowing it's clean means I don't look, I don't feel, because I know. If I don't know whether it's clean, then I got to see for myself and feel it. Changing the topic, something was still hanging around in minds about this judgment thing. One person said, when I first came to this work and heard you talk about looking and listening without judgment, there was this incredible feeling that maybe there is a different way of looking and listening and being without judgment. Namely, without judgment. But then, since being here and coming to meetings and talks, more and more there is developing the judging of the judging. We've been there before, we've talked about it, but let's not evoke what we talked about, I forgot it, and look at it freshly. And ask this question whether it's possible to behold this judging of judging without judgment. Like the rain splattering on the leaves and grass and roof. Just this, how simple can this listening looking be? Allowing whatever is there to appear, to unfold, to show itself, and defold, fold up again. That's what everything does. Nothing stays forever. Not even the rocks. Outside rocks or rocks one feels inside. Wall rocks or rock walls. Enclosing something or other, I don't quite know what. It's me, sort of. But nothing stays forever. Thoughts seem to have the greatest longevity. Ideas, thoughts about me and the world. But they too can change, and do change. So, quietly awareing, as it were, awareing this movement of judging, or some person called it criticalness, constantly critical. At times of others, at times of myself, at times of both. It's a sort of a layer of being. And I recall correctly, the person says, suddenly this criticalness was not there. Not I mustn't be critical. That's criticalness of criticalness. But a layer of fog dissipates and reveals what's there. Humming and raining and breathing. But not those things, but presence, an alive presence, without needing to prove this existence of mine, the me, through criticalness or judgment. Because that's what one of the functions of criticalness is, to constantly reaffirm that I'm here as somebody who knows better, who has a point of view, the security of that, being in the know, being superior or being inferior. That's self-criticalness. Always revolving around this me thing, which in truth is no thing other than thought and memory. Idea with that tremendous power over this body functioning, power over the organs and the glands and the muscles. One more thing about judgment which often comes up. Don't some things need to be judged? Often hasn't happened in this retreat or recently, but a very frequent example was Nazi Germany, Hitler. Doesn't that need judgment? Crime, cruelty, violence, so-called evil. I never speak of it. I never use that word, except in speaking about it when someone brings it up. So are we in the judging mode, taking a position, condemning, recoiling, or in that open mode of wondering what it is that is going on in ourselves and other human beings that generates our actions? Could we say that judging is thinking about, in conditioned terms, what happens to be my ideas of right and wrong, good and bad, like and dislike, my ideas, my memories, and thinking in those terms about myself and others? Is that what judging is? And then there is just seeing what is going on. A violent movement in oneself or others. Seeing it, and it speaks for itself. Showing its destructiveness, its darkening quality. It's intoxication. We talked about that last night in a meeting. Intoxication of anger or whatever idea possesses, can at times possess this body-mind, and being intoxicated with the whole process. Someone else speaking about intoxication of alcohol, addiction. And then there's seeing. Is seeing intoxicating? Or is it just seeing? everything showing itself at this instant for what it is. At times, very clearly what brought it about. At times, very clearly what this leads to. You can see it in oneself when there's some transparency. A thought coming up can be so clear what this can lead to. Thought about how great I am, how bad I am, what others are, how unfair, how unjust. And seeing at a glance the potential intoxication with that thought train and abstaining from it. Not as a deliberate act of abstention or renunciation, but the intelligence of not going with what is narrowing, enclosing, darkening. Not the idea, but the fact of it can be seen at a glance. Not all the time, but at times. Particularly when there's a lot of clear energy around, like in this retreat. So then, a thought arising about myself with the potential of intoxication doesn't need to be judged, it has to be seen. And it can be seen. That's this incredible action or non-action of awareness. With its inbuilt wisdom and compassion, which are not the result of any deliberation or premeditation. It's there when the clarity is there. And then the vision becomes intelligent and compassionate, not needing to judge and condemn or praise. Because there's no me-ness to be upheld, to be fed, affirmed. Me-ness is in abeyance, in clear seeing. And yet can arise at any moment because the pattern for that is programmed, wired, whatever you want to put it, into this whole organism, whichever way you want to put it. Someone asked, how did this me-ness first arise, this self-centered thinking and feeling which results in so much sense of separation? How did it first start? I don't know. I don't remember. Don't remember times of no me-ness and the start of me-ness. I don't remember. I'm not trying to remember it either because everything is furnished right in this moment of being, of awareness in being. So how does me-ness arise again and again and again? We can watch it if we're really deeply interested in it. If we're not, it will pass us by. It'll happen, but not really fully consciously. And of course we have talked and written and communicated and dialogued from the very beginning about hurt. It's the best indicator. Hurt, pain, anger at being criticized. slighted, insulted, compared negatively, ignored. And the perennial question is, it may be so perennial that it doesn't function anymore as a live question. But we tried anyways to ask it. What is it that is being hurt? What is it that pains? What is it that is being protected? Hidden behind rock walls, as one person described it. To ask this question with a passionate interest, because we all suffer from this, time and time again, feeling isolated, slighted, hurt, rejected. Feeling rejected. Because the thought says, she rejected me. Who is being rejected? What is being rejected? Can we ask that and start with not knowing the answer? Not say, oh yeah, it's my ego, it's my me. That's just staying on the thinking level. This has to reveal itself on a much, much deeper, direct level. And it does and will if the question is being asked and really meant to find out. One means to find out. Not to get rid of the me, but to find out all about it. And therefore watching from moment to moment in our daily life and retreat life, because we get hurt or upset or angry or fearful in retreat as well as in daily life. Try to get a hold of that seeming nucleus of ourselves. I say seeming because as you try to search for that nucleus that generates the fears and the anger, seems to generate the fears and the anger, the hurt, the pain. Search for it. Try to find the core of yourself. What is my innermost core? Where I seem to feel all of these emotions, and which, in describing a shutdown, which many people do, sometimes there's a real shutdown, that shutdown seemingly protects that core. But what is that core? I want to get a hold of it. And start out by not knowing what it is. The question has been asked, what is my innermost being or core? And then how quiet can the listening be? The inwardness of inquiring without knowing. Inquiring here does not mean repetition of a question which then can become a soothing mantra. A question rhythmically repeated can have a tremendously soothing effect on the brain and sort of slow it, calm it down. I'm not talking about that, although that may have its place in one's life. questioning here means, I don't know. And I will not replace the unknown with something I know from the past, from reading, from what other people have said. So it is a state of being, the silent inquiry in the face of an original question which cannot be answered except through the known. What is my innermost core? You could say, well, there's a soul, there's the Atman. There's the me. No, I don't know. I don't know what there is. So, I'm listening, looking, inquiring, quietly inwardly. Noticing the urge of the brain to come up with something to be known about what is going on. And not needing to enter into that process. Seeing it and letting it go. Very often you will find that in a state of seeing an urge or a resistance, really seeing it, it dissipates. Cannot maintain itself because it is maintained by knowing something which is dangerous or threatening. So, what is my innermost core? This does not mean that the sensitivities are plugged up as birds twittering and fan humming and as breathing. Nothing needs to be closed off. There is no such thing as a distraction. Things happen as they do. Come and go. And the question remains, what is my innermost being? Which I don't know. And see explanation for what it is. Explanation is words which give some comfort. And the yearning for comfort. And yet with all the comfort we get in our lives because of that yearning, we're ill at ease, restless. So comfort cannot be the true solution to our quandary about what we really truly are. It's amazing how in this open wondering what I really am, or the question has changed a little bit, it's different for different people, it doesn't matter. What is my deepest core? Then watching what happens in a new light. When it is watched out of this sponsorship of the question, then it has a different perspective. Once there is noticing how defensive I get, defensive or aggressive, justifying oneself, explaining oneself, it comes into clearer view. Isn't just taken for a natural thing that is to be believed as inevitable. Where did it all come from? The fear, the pain, the aggression, the defensiveness. And can you notice how the energy is taken off from the content, the suffering, the intoxication with suffering, to wondering about it? It's a shift. From being the victim to witnessing the victimization. And with that shift from victimization to witnessing, some light is released or shines through. On what is going on. It's like coming out of the movies. I was always surprised when I was young. I don't know how many movies we saw, then maybe one every 2 years or something like that. But coming out of a dark movie house and there was still light outside, amazing. All of this was not real. And the realization how vulnerable we are to being intoxicated by movies, videos, tapes, about us, them, world. Very, very vulnerable. There's an amazing brain that can prepare a scenario or create a scenario to feel real. It's not just the brain doing it, this whole body contributes to its feeling so real because the body pains and aches or lusts or revels, enjoys pleasures. So to be aware of the danger. And that could be so misunderstood as I say this. It is not a precept-giving remark or a moralistic one. It's very, very realistic. I said earlier, if in a state of transparency, a thought arises that could become intoxicating, pleasure or anger or pain, it can be seen for its dangerousness instantly and let go of. So, the seeing of danger is part of this awareness. It's intelligence. The free moving of helpful memory of this leads to that. So, at the end of this talk, where are we? What are we? Wondering, listening without knowing. We will end here for today.